Hello, and welcome to A Bit of the Dark. This is a podcast where my co-host and I will discuss horror movies and horror-related films. With me is Joey Hall.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm Neil Cusick. The first movie we're going to be talking about is Nothing Bad Can Happen. This is a German film, and it's a film about this kid. He's homeless, but he's living with this commune, a Christian punk commune called the Jesus Freaks.
Almost punk rock. If I remember correctly, he meets the family first where his Christian punk rock friends and him are traveling. They come across a broken down car on the road. Its battery's dead. They decide to help them. And they help them. They don't have jumper cables, so they help them by praying over the car and decide. And they pray to Jesus, and the car miraculously turns on. They then invite them to one of their rock concerts. The patriarch of the house, what was his name again?
Benno.
Yeah, Benno. Right. Benno decides to show up. The kid then our protagonist then has a seizure and is taken to Benno's house for water and a temporary place to stay, because technically most of these kids are homeless.
Yeah. This kid, Tor, is so he's just the image of a saintly Christian, he's a virgin, and he has this cherubic look. He's got the curly blonde hair and the blue eyes, and I think he just looks so angelic.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like a saintly character in the movie.
Yeah, I think they definitely set him up to be more, to almost be like an ancient saint. Yeah, like we were talking about this movie a little bit before, and Neil was saying that he's very like Joan of Arc like, or like Renaissance, kind of Renaissance era Christian saint. He
becomes kind of like one of those people.
It was an interesting movie to watch. One part, I definitely describe it as Germany's take on Christianity.
Yes.
It's very
German.
It is a very German movie. And it was interesting for me to watch since, well, one, I'm not German, and two, I'm not Christian.
So Sandy has a birthday. She turns 15, and they're all hanging out. And so Benno, he gets her a stuffed kangaroo, and Sandy is clearly not that keen on it. Like a big stuffed kangaroo. It's just not what she wants on her 15th birthday. And Tor gets her an MP3 player, and she gives him a hug, and she's like, "Oh, thanks, this is great," And Benno is just like, you can see he's pissed.
Yeah. By this time, we're starting to see that there's more going on here. There's a dark underside of this family that we haven't been previously exposed to.
It shows up in subtle ways. In a few, like that scene where they're playing bumper cars, and Benno's getting real aggressive, and it seems like he's kind of pushing Tor a little bit. Like he's hitting him. He wants Tor to start playing rough like him, but Tor doesn't want to play rough. That's a kind of a microcosm of what's going to happen later on.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, you're starting to see the underlying signs that this is really an abusive household.
I mean, Benno he's sexually abusing his daughter, which you find out later.
Yeah. And you never find out the full extent of it, but he...
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to admit, I kind of skimmed through that scene. That was a bit hard to watch, so I just... I kind of fast forwarded a little bit.
Okay, fair enough.
I cheated. I cheated. I'm confessing to cheating on this movie.
In that scene, when Benno has this kind of thing, I think, where it's like he sees that his daughter is that she likes Tor, that he can kind of provide for her in this certain kind of way emotionally. He punches Tor.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd the way it happens. He's just sort of playing around with them, and then all of a sudden his smile just drops and he punches him.
Yeah, and he pulls it off as like a practical joke that he's just playing, but he punches Tor. Tor immediately leaves, and Benno has to chase him down and apologize. But I think there's even more going on there, and I think that this is something that the movie is trying to get across, of like a deep ideological difference between Tor and Benno.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also, I mean, this is, I do think that this is a Christian movie. I think that, I don't really know anything about the director or the writer, but it seems like this movie was written by Christians. Mm-hmm. I do think it's a Christian movie, but not any way preachy one. But, and this kind of goes into a problem I have with the movie.
Okay.
Is that it portrays, well, it doesn't portray the Christians as all good, but the faults that it does show them as having is just giving into their weaknesses or giving into their sexual desires. And Tor never does, but other punk rockers in the movie do.
Yeah.
Whereas the atheists in the movie, it portrays them as, like, all the atheists you see are pretty much villains, mm-hmm. with the exception of their victims. And as
with the exception of I think the two kids.
Yes, yeah, that's what I meant. Mm. not raised in a religious household, but are victims of these people.
Yeah.
And their mother isn't entirely unculpable in this.
No.
You think she's a victim going into this movie. You find out she's not.
Oh.
She's really not. But
yeah, I mean, I do feel like in a way she's maybe kind of a victim in the sense of she's under the influence of Tor. Oh, I mean,
Benno.
Not of Tor, Benno.
Yeah.
And Benno it seems to kind of be kind of brainwashing her a little bit somehow, like, in a sense, but at the same time she's totally culpable. I mean, she goes along with it, and she more than goes along with it. She participates. Yeah.
And I mean, you can definitely say that, and this is true that, oops, I dropped that victims do tend to participate or in the crimes of people who are manipulating them, and that is true, but I kind of don't feel like she really fell into that category.
Yeah.
She did it first, but then, yeah, Act 3, she you see that she's kind of you kind of see why her and Benno got together in the first place.
Yeah. She has that same desire in her just to like abuse and to dominate someone. It's really kind of, I mean, she just looks like a normal regular housewife with her floral, dresses and stuff, and she's there's a sadist in her. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was feeling sympathy for her for most of the movie, and then you find out more about the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
But again, that was kind of, I don't know, kind of bringing it back to my point of the atheists versus the Christians.
The atheists are the bad guys.
I kind of didn't like that. I mean, it's hard to really fault them in the Christian movie for doing that, but I think they were really trying to have good and evil, or a fight between good and evil, but it did at times come across as Christian good, atheist bad.
They're supposed to represent these kind of archetypes. The atheists are evil, the Christian is very good, I guess I'm kind of okay with it, maybe because often in horror movies and thrillers, it's like the Christians who are corrupt and evil, but like, evil creepy cults and stuff like that.
You raise a valid point that
and in this one, it's the other way around.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah, you're right that a lot of times Christians are portrayed as the bad guys, and a lot of times they are. But yeah, a lot of times atheists are the bad guys. People are people. There are good and bad in every group. But okay, something that I thought was really interesting about the movie is they set up this Tor kid as his primary motivation, and the motivation of everyone in his Christian commune, if you will, to be more Christ-like. And yeah, that's Tor's main motivation throughout the entire movie, is to be Christ-like.
Yeah, isn't there that scene where they're in the concert and the one guy is talking to all of them and he's telling them to emulate Christ? I think
he's absolutely telling them to emulate Christ.
Be like Christ.
And when Tor is asked about it, he says that he wants to be Christ-like. And in the movie, he definitely achieves that goal. He's brought to this household of Benno because he believes that God has sent him there. He has the opportunity to leave many times, but doesn't, because he believes that Benno is his test from God, and that this situation is his test from God. And God has put him in that household for a reason. He's put there to represent his faith, or to it's kind of like a microcosm of the Jesus story, or the adult Jesus story, rather. That he preaches to a group, he gains a following, he's ultimately betrayed, he has opportunity to escape, has opportunity to fight back, refuses to fight back toward trust in God, is ultimately pretty brutally tortured for it, and eventually martyred, but leaves a lasting impact.
Yeah.
So in that respect, he's very Christ-like. His life pretty directly emulates Christ in that regard.
And the fact that the two kids get away at the end, I think, ties into that.
Yes.
Right? Because he's sacrificed himself, but they have managed to escape. So, right, because Jesus is often associated with children kneeling at his feet, right? Like he's the savior of children. I don't know a lot about.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
But so like it kind of makes sense that at the end the two kids would get away.
It's like Jesus died for the sins of mankind. Tor almost died for the sins of this household.
Yeah.
And managed to say he basically exchanged his life for two lives.
He is kind of, in a way, almost atoning for their sins by suffering them willingly.
But that's also an interesting, and kind of why I describe this as one of the least Christian movies I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. I've definitely seen, actually. There seem to be obvious solutions that Tor is ignoring because of his interpretation of God's will.
Yeah.
That show him as not real, despite being Christ-like, despite being saintly, isn't necessarily a perfect person. I mean, there. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but there do seem like better ways to handle that situation. Granted, he's not going to fight back. He's not going to attack them. But it seems maybe if we're interpreting this movie from a Christian literalist perspective, that he put Tor in that situation to save these kids, to help this situation. Mm-hmm. But through Tor's martyrdom, what happens is, yes, the kids do get away, but it's also left ambiguous where they're going to go. But they have left both Benno and his wife survive. Other people who are culpable in this are left unaccountable. No one is held accountable for their actions.
Yeah.
So there's the kind of the ambiguity, and the obvious solution would be the moment you suspect abuse, or the moment Benno killed that cat, or even earlier, the moment you see that Benno is abusing his daughter.
Yeah.
Or even when, or especially in Act 3, when Benno, that would have actually, from doing the most good perspective, Act 3 would have been the best time for Tor to intervene. When he is being essentially sold as a sex slave to like a underground gay brothel.
Yeah.
But if he had, because I'm assuming this kid's underage, but still that's still not okay. But depending on if that's irrelevant if he's underage or not. It's still sex slavery.
Yeah,
it's
just
sex
bring him
slavery.
a piece of meat.
Yeah. So, like the obvious solution would be to contact authorities. Say, hey, I know that these kids are being abused. Mm-hmm. I know about this underground brothel where children are being abused. And just completely spill your guts. And that, to me, would have done more good. He probably would have saved way more people.
Yeah, everyone who's involved in that.
And
it's a whole other abuse thing that he's introduced to.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, this is just part of my thing now. And it doesn't go beyond that. He's got tunnel vision. Yeah,
he does. That's his greatest fault, is that if he really thought a little bit more outside of the box, from his literalist perspective, he probably would have thought, okay, God put me in this position to end what's going on here. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to be martyred. I'm here to end this. And if he had ended it, it's like that classic joke of a man is about to die in a flood. He's trapped on top of his house, and he says, and he's devout Christian, and he's like, God will save me, and he's just completely confident God will save him. So a rowboat comes up, like, come on, get in the boat. He's like, no, God will save me. So they give up and row away. Then a little while later, water's getting higher, speedboat comes up. He's like, come on, get in the boat. No, God will save me. And then a little while later, water's pretty much up to this guy's chest at this point. Helicopter comes up and like, come on, get in, grab us. No, God will save me. The helicopter can't save him, so it flies away. Waters rise, man drowns. Man goes to heaven, meets God, says, God, why didn't you save me? God looks at him and says, I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter. What more do you want from me? Yeah, so Tor's inaction kind of reminded me of that joke.
He had a very, I don't want to say selfish. I don't think he's selfish. I think he's just...
no, he's not selfish.
He's
very selfless.
Completely, yeah.
Most selfless person ever.
But I think like a lot of people who are in their teens, he kind of can't see beyond just like his kind of what's happening to him in his immediate situation, which kind of makes sense because it's so traumatic. He's numbing himself so that he can get through it. With Benno, his psychology seems to be okay. He has these very kind of sadistic impulses within him, but the dynamic that's established between him and Tor is it's like they're resonating with each other. It's like something in Tor is like almost it's making something within him is really like rising up. Something about Tor really, I think, is just like really getting to Benno. Tor really gets into Benno's head. He gets into the whole family's head, I think.
Yeah.
Just by who he is. Not on purpose. That's not something that he's trying to do. It's just that the way he is and who he is, and he's someone who I think that they haven't really had much interaction with.
No.
And I don't think that he's probably had a whole lot of... Yeah, they're just so kind of foreign to each other. They're kind of like... It's so clear that Benno is totally disdainful of Christianity. The things that he say are the types of things that you hear atheists say a lot, about how Christianity is something for weak-minded people, or religions for the weak-minded, and all that stuff. But I could kind of buy this dude. You've probably met atheists who are kind of like assholes about I don't believe in God, but I try not to be a jerk about it. Some people can be. But that's kind of a tangent.
Yeah, I've known people who I've known other atheists who were definitely much bigger assholes than me, who were pretty
saying a lot, right?
Yeah, shut up. pretty, or almost worse than the Christians about their lack of belief than the Christians are about their belief. But those people, you find them a lot on YouTube comments. But in person, I've encountered very few, and the ones I have encountered don't do that unprovoked.
Someone needs to kind of goad them into it.
If they're goaded into it, their asshole colors come out. Usually see them around hate preachers. But and there are people who handle hate preachers better than others. They're just kind of try to mock them. But then there's other ones that get up in their faces and are just almost being worse than the hate preacher. And I hate that because it's like, you're just giving them what they want. You're just reinforcing atheist stereotypes. Like, come on, dude. Like, think about this a little bit more. This Christian's not being Christ-like. Maybe you should be a little more Christ-like just to prove him wrong. You kind of know what I'm saying?
Tor is so unrelenting in his... Benno is so annoyed by Tor, right? He even says, I don't buy this goody two-shoes act. He thinks that he's kind of a fraud.
Yeah.
He's like, deep down, I know you're an animal like me. Mm-hmm. And so he keeps pushing him, trying to turn him in, trying to make him lash out. To essentially kind of, in his mind, I think, respect his, animal nature, which is, in the wild... if an animal's attacked, he'll attack back. There's no turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
In the animal kingdom, Tor wants to be more than a beast, more than an animal, more than that. He wants to be something else. And Benno wants the opposite. He wants him to turn into an animal. To give into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like in Tor's Christ experience, his body gets completely destroyed, but it's interesting that they portray it as, his body's being destroyed, but his mind or his spiritual side is just getting stronger and stronger till he eventually is murdered.
Yeah.
Which is directly emulating the life of Jesus.
Yes, the flesh is mortified, but the spirit transcends.
Yeah, that's I definitely think what the movie was going for, but they also weren't just trying to portray it as necessarily a good decision. The movie was very non-judgmental about Christian faith. It showed extreme Christ emulation. But it also didn't necessarily portray it as being correct.
And then these two assholes are just gonna, continue going about their lives. I mean, who knows? Maybe eventually, we don't know what could happen later on. I mean, they committed murder. It's who knows?
Yeah.
But
that goes into my. That's a perfect segue into a kind of a minor criticism I have of this. I told you about this of this movie's ending. This is really nitpicking, but I was totally expecting this to happen. So, beginning of the movie, all of the Christian kids pray around the car for it to get fixed. That's how Tor is introduced to Benno and his family. Then, kind of halfway through the movie, somewhere in the middle of Act 2, Benno Benno's car breaks down again. Tor tries to pray it fixed. It doesn't work this time. And Tor believes that Christ has forsaken him, and that's kind of when his disconnection from God starts. But if you're looking at this from a more literal Christianity perspective, then it seems more like God probably turned his back on Benno and is punishing him for by not turning on the car. It's just not intervening in this situation. But that's another thing. And then the ending, they're taking Tor's half-dead body to dump it in the river, and they're using that same car. I was sure that at the end of the movie, they were going to come back and the car wasn't going to start. And they were going to be stranded right where they dumped the body and leave it ambiguous if they're going to get caught or not. And it made me sad when they didn't, because that would have just followed the rule of three perfectly.
The rule of three, yeah. It would have brought it full circle.
It would have brought it full circle. It's like, haha, God stopped your car right next to the murder body.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to figure out how to get home now from the scene of the crime. Good luck.
Yes, yeah, and I really liked those scenes, especially like that first one. I just love how this movie kind of flirts with, it's like, oh, hey, like, maybe this kid is like Jesus, or maybe Jesus really is smiling on this kid, or something. Like, it kind of gets in those kind of scenes that have that quality, but then, yeah, it only happens twice, and then...
Yeah. And they also made it somewhat ambiguous if Tor really did have a connection with God, or they were just hallucinations brought on by his epilepsy.
Right.
Because I think it was like the beginning of Act 3 that Tor has an actual vision of Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's when he is reconnected with God, but you see outside of his body and he's having a seizure. But Tor throughout the entire movie thinks that his seizures are him connecting with the Holy Spirit. But when he talks to the doctors in the hospital, he tells them he has epilepsy. So, yeah, that's kind of the... Yeah, that's an ambiguity there. Which, props to them for creating some ambiguity in the reality of any of this.
Yeah, so you're saying, like, he might... He's aware that that it's a medical condition, but he also believes that when he experiences those things, possibly he's being opened up to some kind of divine inspiration or message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always been kind of an argument between like faithful people and skeptics. Is what's happening real? Are visions real? Is divine inspiration real? Or is it just something brought on by a neurological or mental illness?
Yeah.
That's because of the charisma of the person who had it, or people retelling it, it's interpreted as mystical. It's kind of like shamanism. You get yourself into or even meditation. Like, you get yourself into a pretty deep trance, if you will, and sometimes you start seeing things. Is this really... are you really in touch with the divine, or are your neurons just firing at random?
Right. Oh, and I can also see an interpretation, like a divine interpretation, that kind of combine the two, where you think that like your neurons are kind of interacting in a certain way that might change your brain chemistry in a way that opens your brain up to divine influence.
And I think a faithful person would probably argue that. They'd probably say that
it's you're kind of like opening your receptors or something.
Yeah. And that is in no way a Christian exclusive phenomena. It's that pretty much every religion, or organized or not, has that. I've experienced that. I've gotten into pretty deep meditation and seen I mean, one time it's kind of why I don't meditate anymore. I've seen whenever I meditate, I kind of see disturbing things. I remember one time I was taking a yoga class and they had us meditate, and my eyes were closed, but I was seeing the room I was in, and I was seeing shadow people going across the walls. I'm just like, I'm not, like, nope.
So, yeah, clearly those were just there the whole time.
Yeah, I'll leave that for debate. Did I have a vision of an otherworldly plane, or was I just hallucinating? Having like a hypnagogic hallucination. I think that's what that's called.
I think that's something this movie kind of gets at, is like just how powerful faith is. That when you have, when you see something, when you feel like God is really talking to you. I mean, people just go all in on that stuff, and it's if Tor didn't have that, he wouldn't have anything else, because he doesn't have a home. He's kind of gained a new home, but now it's turned into just a house of horror.
Yeah.
And so he's just kind of having everything stripped away from him, except for his faith and his ability to not lash out or forgive. That's what he's kind of left.
And maybe
with.
That's why he doesn't choose the obvious solutions, because his faith is all he has. And he doesn't seek a worldly solution to his problems. Yeah,
he's got his eye on the prize, and I mean he's going to go to heaven from his perspective.
Yeah. But if he had taken definitely from his perspective, but if he had taken the obvious route, he might have been able to save more lives, including his own.
Yeah.
And he probably would have brought some bad people to justice. Still, though, it is important to remember that in his sacrifice, he did save 2 lives.
Yes, and it's not an entire as bleak as it is.
And that is one bleak movie.
Oh yeah,
that is that movie is hard to watch at times.
It kind of ends with there's a note of hope for the future in that they're going to be able to get away, and they've escaped some pretty toxic. I mean, not only of course Benno is of course highly abusive, but I think he's worried that Tor is gonna kind of like that his goodness is gonna rub off on his daughter. I think, and that he could have influence on his daughter,
which he does immediately.
Yeah, because she's kind of taken with him. I mean, he's a kind of a special, an unusual kid, and he's just so unusual and so sweet, and she's just like, this is like
and
pretty nice boy.
Despite like whatever you want to say about Tor, he genuinely believes in goodness.
Yeah,
he's the type of Christian that we really need. He's just someone that wants to be Christ-like, wants to be as good as possible, and will stop at nothing to be as good as possible. Literally nothing.
Yeah, he does not want to become cynical and just kind of cut himself off from his idealism. Okay, so he's got the thing about no premarital sex, and that's something that Sandy's not enthusiastic about, because she thinks that they're going to do that, and then he shies away from it. Sandy kind of says some similar things to what Benno says,
which does make sense.
She kind of says, I can't remember exactly what she says to him, but you can see that she, like Benno, is skeptical of the value of his Christian faith, or of Christianity, or of belief in in religion. And
that's something interesting, is that the movie never really talks about, is God real or not? It never really goes into that. It's more
just about the people.
Yeah, it's more about
no divine element or supernatural.
Yeah, they never really question. None of the characters either question each other's faith or lack of faith. They're more questioning each other's true nature.
Yeah, it's like what's underneath it all.
Which is also really unusual in a Christian movie. Because the few Christian movies I've seen or seen parts of, it's always like atheists are wrong, this is why. Christians are right, this is why. And it's like, well, the Bible says this, and we've proven that God's real, but they never really go into that. It's definitely character motivated, which is something you definitely want in a movie. You want all the motivations to come purely out of the characters.
Even though the way that it's kind of like the characters are sort of a little bit black and white in that they're kind of like archetypes, the movie doesn't really, because the movie just allows them to be so what they are and just interact with each other, and it's like, what happens when you put these two really combustible elements together?
They combust.
Yeah, they combust. Oh God, is there anything else you can think of?
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a lot to unpack in this movie.
There's
a lot more to analyze in it than you really think after just seeing it. There's a lot going on there, and a lot of it is very disturbing and very hard to watch. But I do think that their main intent with this movie was to create someone who wants to be as Christ-like as possible, and succeeds in that by becoming martyred pretty much like Jesus was. Not exactly, but analogously martyred to Jesus. Speaking of martyrs, okay, so Martyrs, brilliant psychological thriller or snuff film, you decide. Martyrs is mainly, it's about two characters, Anna and Lucy. It's a French film. Anna and Lucy meet in a like a psych ward for children.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Lucy was kidnapped as a child and tortured by her captors, although not sexually abused. They make a point of mentioning that.
Yes.
Which does kind of come back later, but not seriously. I guess it does. And Anna is just this tough as nails little kid. Like you've almost never seen someone tougher. Lucy is suffering from pretty serious delusions of some weird demon dead woman who comes in to her ward at night and seriously harms her. Anna, they develop like a romantic relationship that's not seen on screen.
I had the feeling that I got was that her friend is in love with her. Wait, I'm actually forgetting the names. Okay, Anna is
Anna's the one that wasn't captured.
Okay, so Anna is in love, and what's her friend's name again?
Lucy.
So Anna's in love with Lucy.
Yes.
But Lucy's not in love with Anna.
I thought they had a pretty big kiss though in that one scene. Okay, yeah, I guess you're right. Like
Anna plants one or tries to go for one, or I think she plants one on her. But then Lucy's like, "Hey, what was that?" She doesn't like her in that way. I think she loves her very deeply as a friend. Yeah. But she doesn't feel romantically.
I kind of got the impression that Lucy doesn't really fight off Anna's advances necessarily. Maybe because she needs her. It's a weird relationship. Anna's the strong one. Lucy is mentally broken, basically.
I mean, I guess Anna's a little bit like almost the Tor character, a little bit in Nothing Bad. You think maybe in a way, she's such a good person, but she also has her kind of limitations. Yeah. And she's somebody she's become a caretaker for her friend.
Yeah, and in turn, Lucy also latches on to Anna.
Yeah.
Because she does need that.
And they form a really close bond, a really strong bond that's so close that it is almost like a romantic relationship.
Yeah, that's probably how I got that impression. Yeah, it's left kind of ambiguous, the nature of their relationship, but it ultimately doesn't really matter.
Yeah, at any rate, the point is that they're just incredibly close, and they're as close as two people can be. If you haven't seen the movie yet, you should stop watching, because it's one of those movies, I think the less you know going into it, the better. Would you say so?
I don't really know. I mean, it's a very experimental movie. Put it this way, I agree with the movie's Rotten Tomatoes score. I see what the people who like it, I agree with their points, and I also agree with the points of the people who detest it. I see where both of them are coming from, and I feel like my mind has put me right smack dab in the middle of either I like the movie, or like I really like the movie, or I really hate it, and I kind of can't really decide.
It does tend to have a really divisive effect on people. And some people really hate this movie in the way that I think people often tend to really hate on movies that are kind of extreme, and they're like, oh, this is awful, this is trash.
Yeah, and I feel that division right down the middle of my psyche. I am firmly in both camps, if that makes sense. I love this movie as much as I hate it.
I think it does, and this is one of those movies that, like you say, it goes for broke, and it pretty much just goes all the way.
And the extreme nature of this movie, at times, I feel like it's warranted, but at other times, I feel like it's used to cover up the movie's problems, if that makes sense. So the movie has some pretty serious structural problems, but they just show a lot of extremely shocking imagery to try to make you ignore that.
So let's get into the structural stuff then. So
okay.
What are some of your kind of issues with that?
Okay. Structural problems. Okay, I was really into the movie for the first 2/3 of it. Okay. The first act is kind of... First half of the first act is them as kids, them being raised in this psych ward, Lucy being haunted by this weird ghost lady, or this... let's just call her the dead woman, because that's what they refer to her in the movie. Her being haunted by the dead woman. And then the second half of the first act, they completely destroyed my expectations. Lucy discovers off screen, but she figures out who kidnapped and tortured her, and it was a married couple. She finds their house, she tracks them down. She brutally guns down with a shotgun both of them and their 2 children. So I was like, whoa, this movie killed off its main villains in the first act. That takes guts. So rest of the first and second act is these 2 women. Okay, yeah, because when Lucy discovers who kidnapped her, she's an adult. So it's basically just her and Anna in their house, or Anna, however you want to say it, in their house, trying to deal with the consequences of what Lucy's done. Because she's killed 4 people. They need to get rid of the bodies, and they also need to deal with what's going on inside of Lucy's mind, because Lucy's been harmed by the dead woman that she's been seeing for pretty much her entire life. The dead woman attacks her and cuts her, and you're not entirely sure if this is a real apparition or if she's just hallucinating it and harming herself. And so she thinks that by killing them, she's going to get rid of the apparition, but she doesn't. It still continues to hurt her.
So she just wants some peace.
Yeah.
She just wants some peace and quiet. I mean, and she thinks that she's going to get that by taking revenge, and she doesn't. She was just on a track for revenge. Like, that's what she was.
Yeah.
She had to have it. It's almost like she had to have it, and yet it still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
I can't imagine her being able to just let that go. I can't imagine her being able to live without doing it, and yet at the same time she did it, and she still couldn't live with it.
It's important that when she escaped her captors, she saw another woman being tortured, and that has been her hallucination. That's been the dead woman who's, in her mind, is coming for revenge. And then she finds out that the woman was actually alive. The married couple who captured her, the woman in that couple.
She actually hasn't died.
Yeah, she actually hasn't died. And for some reason, Anna tries to save her for God knows what reason.
Okay, like when she comes into the house and she sees what's happened, I mean, she's just so shocked. She's throwing up in the bathroom, and she just looks the shock of seeing it. She's like, "Oh, what have we done?" Mm-hmm. And she kind of has a change of heart. I mean, it is kind of strange that she would at first be helping her friend so much, and then do something that would.
But I think she didn't expect Lucy to go in and kill them all. She thought that maybe these people didn't do it. That there was a possibility that Lucy was wrong.
Oh yeah, and I think that's the first scene where we see her.
Yeah.
She's telling Lucy, "What did you do? We're not even 100% sure those are the people." But Lucy's like, "Yeah, no, I'm sure."
Lucy's like, "No, they tortured me for like 2 years. I know," or however long it was. They're like, it was them. She encounters the dead woman again, who now, in her mind, is a lot more friendly, and she basically. And you see her talking to the dead woman, and then the dead woman seemingly forgives Lucy, and but still it's like, you need to die, and basically makes her commit suicide. And okay, this is kind of interesting. I think if this were any other movie, that's where it would have ended. And I was really into it for like kind of up until that point. Mm-hmm. That seemed like I think other people who've seen this movie have agreed with me on this. That seemed like a natural conclusion to the movie. That maybe it's left ambiguous if these were really the people that did this, or if she just killed 4 innocent people. Mm-hmm. If the dead woman really exists or not, or if it was just inside of her head. I feel like that might have made for a stronger movie, although it might have seemed too predictable. But it would have left... I feel like with a movie kind of like this, or like they were setting it up, maybe it would have been better to leave things open. That's where...
I still think that there is still some enigma with the movie, for sure. At least with the ending. At least with the very ending.
Yeah. I mean, I think the idea with the ending was a good one. Mm. But in the way the movie was going, it kind of came out of left field. Then this is my now I'm gonna get on my hate the movie rant. Okay. I'll get on. I kind of got on my love the movie rant a little bit. Uh-huh. So yeah, narrative problems is that I feel like they had 2 really good ideas, and they didn't really decide, and they kind of went with both. Yeah, on one hand you got a woman seeking revenge who her best friend who's helping her isn't entirely sure if she's crazy or not. And it's somewhat ambiguous if her actions were correct, or if she's killed innocent people, or if what she's doing is even morally justifiable because she kills the kids. Yeah, you have this kind of ambiguous, somewhat existential idea on one hand. The other hand, you have this kind of cool conspiracy theory idea. there's this satanic cult, or not really satanic. What am I saying? There's this this they're not satanic,
but they are a cult.
Yeah, they are a cult,
and it's vaguely religious, spiritual, and they're kind of intent because they want to get a glimpse into the afterlife.
Yeah, the
or
cult,
they want someone else to, and then they want them to tell.
Yeah,
them
the cult's main motive is that when someone becomes martyred, it's not just this self-sacrifice. It's like this almost higher state of being right before death, where you're alive, but you are clearly seeing the afterlife. Both of those ideas are really good, but I kind of feel like they needed to be their own movie.
The movie shifts gears in a big way,
yeah,
for sure.
And that's kind of another problem I have with it, is that it kind of ends up with after Lucy killing the 4 people, none of the things that happen to the characters really come out of the characters' actions. They just kind of come out of their inaction.
Wait, which part are you talking about?
Second half of Act 1 onward. The cult shows up out of nowhere because these 2 people
I see what you're saying.
Calling. They're just kind of hanging out in the house. They're not really being proactive. They kind of try to dispose of the bodies, but they don't really follow through on it.
Yeah, that is there. I felt a little bit of frustration there because I was like, okay, she must know that this is not a safe place to be in right now. I mean, for one thing, there are dead bodies in there. Like and plus she doesn't know if these people have friends who are gonna check on them.
They have a fancy house. They probably have good jobs. Maybe
and it's like,
the work is gonna call, or they're gonna send someone by to see if they're all right.
And maybe she had this family has other people who they're working with who are torturing these people. I mean, it seems like she knows what's going on.
But I mean, from what they were seeing.
Okay,
maybe.
that's kind of like how I sort of justified it in my head. I was like, well, okay, maybe she just thinks that this is a thing that just this family was doing, and so she's like, oh, well, no one's gonna come by, and then it turns out that it's actually part of this much bigger thing.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it was maybe just because her character seemed like in so many ways like she was so kind of strong and proactive in the way that she's being proactive with her friend, taking care of her friend, and getting all this stuff figured out and helping her track down these people and all that sort of thing, that she would then. But then again, her friend has just died, so she's in a state of shock.
Yeah,
and
I kind of feel like that would have been.
I kind of feel like I could go either way.
Yeah.
On it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But you're just saying like the inaction of the characters. But I mean, like the whole martyr thing. It's like to be a martyr is to witness. Apparently that's the I guess original definition of the word. Is like a witness.
Yeah.
So I guess that's
the other good idea of the movie. It's like that's idea too. It seems like they could have structured a whole movie solely around that idea.
Around about the
cult
about the cult and the whole. I mean, kind of martyrdom
admittedly,
concept.
that might have been if done wrong, that would have been an impossible movie to watch. But they have to be careful about that. So maybe it worked out for the best. So they just kind of, I don't know. The two ideas kind of seemed like they were fighting for dominance.
I do like the way that the movie. Okay, I like that the movie has this feeling of it's like it starts out and there's some really brutal stuff that happens and then it's like it peels back more layers and you realize that it's even crazier than you actually thought. And I like that kind of a thing. Like the scene where she's going into the dungeon for the first time and she sees those pictures of the people on that are on the walls of the people who have attained that state. I was just like, oh, I like those moments where it's just like, whoa, like we're getting into some really serious, like dark stuff here, and like I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
Yeah.
But when Anna goes into the sub basement and finds the dead woman, it turns out the dead woman is actually alive and has still been tortured by these people for the last 15 years or more. That's kind of when the movie lost me.
Okay, so you weren't into the, because I feel like it's kind of like this moment of tender, I don't know.
Yeah.
You didn't like it? I thought it was kind of heartwarming in a way. I mean, like the way that she treats this woman so well, who has never, who for the last 15 years just has been abused, and now she's like, gentle human contact, and
we're kind of getting back into the same problem that I have with Nothing Bad Can Happen. Is that I know that Anna's just killed a bunch of, or Lucy's killed a bunch of people, and probably looks like Anna's culpable in it, but at that moment, call the police.
Yeah, she shouldn't be hanging around in there.
I'm just thinking, if, God forbid, somehow I found myself in that kind of situation, it's just what would I do? Okay, you found, your friend has killed a bunch of people, you're trying to cover up for it because because you got yourself into that awful situation. Yeah, I don't see myself ever being in that situation. So I guess I'm using wrong terminology in this. But it's okay, now you found the basement with all this strong evidence of torture dungeon. Then you actually find a torture dungeon with a living victim in it, and whose medical needs of just pretty serious. You should absolutely call the police at this point, because at this point you can say, my friend was tortured by these people and she came in and killed them. I didn't know what to do. I went down, she killed herself. I came in here and found this. And they probably go easy on you. Under the circumstances, and finding that woman, you probably still do some time, but they'd probably go easy on you. And it would have worked out better too, because who knows what kind of evidence was in that house? It might have led to the cult. It might have, or they that woman in there was probably beyond saving, but they might have been able to help her in some capacity.
Yeah.
And it definitely would have prevented what happened to Anna. So.
Yeah.
Pulling hooks out of someone's skull is, when you have no medical training, is just all kinds of a bad idea. Especially without any anesthesia or anything. You're going to jail regardless of what happens at this point, unless you burn down the house and everyone and everything in it. You're going to jail.
You can just see how overwhelmed she is. She's just completely overwhelmed by everything that's going on, as you would be.
Yeah.
But
I think torture dungeon with living victim though.
Do you really think she could have explained away the bodies in the house to the police?
No. Well, not fully.
It seems, because I feel like she would. You don't think that she would get indicted for collusion to murder four people?
She absolutely would.
But then they'd find out. They would. Yeah.
I think, I don't know. That's a pretty insane situation. She could probably claim insanity.
Yeah, but so you don't think that,
or at the very least, she could call the police and then just like GTFO.
Yeah, that's true. She could call the police and then just hightail it. I think there's that that thing that can happen in horror movies sometimes where the protagonists aren't really proactive in kind of helping themselves and saving themselves.
Yeah.
And so then they fall into the clutches of the bad guys. And
it's like you kind of need to...
It feels like it's a little too easy the way it's happened, a little too convenient.
It's like you kind of need to explain that better of not using common sense. I don't know. That was just a structural problem I had with it.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, do you want to, let's see.
Oh, God, Act 3. Oh,
Act 3,
Jesus.
yeah,
We're at that point, aren't we? We got to talk about Act 3. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, it's brutal. It's really...
It is,
really brutal. And at times, you feel like it's... And you're right, this is kind of where it gets into the things that people really hate about the movie. And, like, the division and... I don't know. A lot of the time, to me, it seems like the gore is just kind of there for the sake of gore, or it's like, but I mean, they do kind of. I mean, the martyr. Yeah, they're trying to kind of explain the martyr idea.
I think there are parts that maybe feel a little bit repetitive when she's just getting punched over and over, but I think that also it's trying to like make you kind of feel that just monotonous, like what she's going through just every day, being punched over and over. But it can also maybe for that same reason feel like you as a viewer, if you're not totally with it, it can just kind of feel like, okay, this is... Did you feel like it was just sort of like... there just wasn't quite enough of an idea there underneath it? Like there was an idea but not enough for you?
Yeah, I do feel like that.
Okay.
I feel like, yeah, the idea wasn't quite formulated enough, and kind of... And the gore and the abuse was just kind of too much. And it's a good idea, but it's a very, very hard to execute idea. And I get why a lot of people say that it's like torture porn.
I mean, I think that, like, I have my issues with the term torture porn, you know, because, like, but it's a term that I don't really like it, but
Saw is torture porn. Well, Saw's 2 through whatever. Saw 1 was good.
Yeah, Saw 1 I thought actually was not that, like, it wasn't insanely graphic by any means.
Yeah.
It was just kind of, but like, I do understand why people kind of lump it in with movies like Hostel and stuff, and that's because I think that there's definitely a similarity, and the director has said that he's a fan of Hostel and like of Eli Roth, and so I kind of get that he
that makes too much sense.
He likes his extreme horror movies, but with this one he's doing that, but kind of with a more serious intent, but it still crosses into that into that kind of territory. I think that there are scenes like the one where she's kind of having this she starts talking with her friend, right? As she's going through all this stuff, and I saw that as either she is communicating with her friend who is now in the afterlife, and because she is starting to get into that kind of a heightened mental state where, you know, you're a martyr. So she's either, I think, actually talking with her friend in the afterlife, or that's just her kind of creating her mind creating a hallucination as a way to comfort herself, as a way to deal with what's going on.
It kind of brings me into like important plot point in the third act, is that if the torture doesn't drive you insane, you're going to become a martyr. And pretty much everyone that they've done it to has gone insane.
Yeah.
And you find out that's what happened to Lucy. She went insane, and these things that you're seeing And again, like I liked it better when you didn't really know if it was real or not. But anyway, whatever. They explained it. Yeah, that her insanity, that all these people's insanity tries to harm them in some way or another.
Yeah.
And if you don't experience that, then you're probably going to get to that higher mental state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she does. So, okay, let's want to talk about the ending, the very okay.
Yeah, let's talk about the ending.
Yeah. All right. So, boy, I mean, I personally, I don't have like one thing that I think, oh yeah, that's definitely what it means. I think that there are a couple of possible explanations, and
good, because I'd love to hear the possible explanations. Because I'm just like, okay, they've Anna sees the afterlife, explains to the woman who's the head of the torture cult.
Yeah.
Or everything that she sees,
mistress.
gives her the headmistress gives her a clear and unambiguous image of exactly what happens after you die. She's going to reveal it to all the other people in the torture cult from all of their divisions, I guess. And she's in the bathroom just getting her makeup ready, but not really. And she decides that she's not going to tell them all for whatever reason. And whatever revelation she was given, she decides that killing herself is preferable to giving it.
Yeah. And
so, what are your interpretations? Because I'm like, okay, I kind of get what they're trying to do. Here comes the ambiguity and kind of the existential dread of it, or it's a lazy way out, and I haven't really decided. So I want to hear your interpretations of this.
One possible interpretation is that she sees the afterlife, and she sees that it's going to be good for her, but it's going to suck for them. Or possibly that they're going to go to hell, or some, maybe not, hell as in like the Christian. I mean, I guess there are hells in a lot of different religions, but maybe that she's going to go to hell, or that they're going to go to hell, or something like hell, that they're going to experience. That their experience of the afterlife is not going to be, they're not going to be given a golden harp and wings and just be, it's not going to be that.
Clearly, they've spent most of their adult lives torturing people.
So she decides, well, I don't want to tell. I can't. This is the big moment. I can't just tell them that, and so she kills herself. Now, I also think, okay, here's some other possible theories. She says there's no afterlife.
I don't agree with that theory.
Okay.
At least not in the movie's canon.
All right.
Because she says she talks to Anna for a long time, like an hour or two, if I remember correctly. Her friend outside the door is like, "Is there an afterlife?" And she kind of dismissively says, "Of course there is."
Oh,
so there's something. Okay. There's something after we die. Of course there is.
Oh, okay. No, you're right.
Yeah, and she's like, can you contemplate or can you imagine what the afterlife would be like? And he's like, no. She's like, keep wondering or something like that, and then dead.
Do you think it's possible that she could have seen something, but lied about what she saw as like a way of? Nah, probably not.
That seems unlikely.
I don't think it. Yeah,
I don't think she was in a mental state to be capable of lying.
She couldn't even lie at that point. She is basically
she's just a conduit at that point.
Yes,
to the other side. She is seen completely through the veil.
She sees that that the afterlife is going to be either hellish for them, or maybe that they're not gonna experience it. Maybe what she sees is that there is an afterlife, but it's not for everyone, and people like that don't get to experience it.
Interesting. It doesn't explain, though, why the headmistress would kill herself given that information.
Okay, maybe it's because she was holding out so much hope for that, for the afterlife, that when she finds out that it's not going to happen, her hopes are dashed. And okay, also maybe. Let me think.
It seems like the cult's main motivation is, I mean, it's fucked up, but their main motivation seems like almost self-sacrificial from their perspective. It's not true, but from their perspective, they probably think we're doing a service for humanity so that everyone can know the true nature of the afterlife.
Right, like because they are kind of like, or at least I think they probably see themselves almost as like kind of scientists. Like they're on a frontier and they're trying to find something out and report it and report it back.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe the afterlife that was witnessed was nothing like what any religion has said.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why she decided to destroy the information.
I think that seems kind of likely.
Or maybe knowing the truth of the afterlife when you're not a martyr is like somehow detrimental to you, or detrimental to you accessing the afterlife.
Okay.
Or somehow will destroy it, or somehow will ruin human civilization, or ruin the eternal souls of everyone, so she decides to take that information to the grave with her.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Like, maybe that's the reason.
I kind of like that because it's information that she was not. It wasn't meant for her. I mean, it
wasn't meant for anyone.
It wasn't. Yeah, exactly. It's not meant for anyone, and their hubris in thinking that it's meant for them. I feel like that's an important kind of thing, is that just their arrogance in taking it. I think they seem to take it kind of as a given. Yeah. That they're kind of in on this. It's like, we're gonna find this out, and then it's gonna be awesome. And then she finds it out, and then she realizes that it's all been for nothing, that this was never, ever something that was meant for anyone.
We messed up bad, basically.
Yeah. Like, she gets what she wants, and then she just realizes, like, oh yeah, I mean, it's the forbidden knowledge, and it's knowledge that you shouldn't possess. Yeah. For a good reason, And
it's like, if that had been her revelation, that the very knowledge of this will have consequences that are grave and unforeseen, it seems like it would have been better for her to at least tell everyone that before she offed herself, so that there's no more torture going on. Because it's entirely possible that, I mean, they're probably going to stop after she kills herself after learning that knowledge, or at least stop for a while, but it seems like it's only a matter of time before someone tries to figure it out again. Yeah. At least tell people that seriously don't access this. Yeah. So maybe it wasn't that, but no, it'd have to be that, though. That would have been the better thing to do. Like, okay, guys, seriously, you don't want to know this. Stop harming innocent people.
Do you think that she would care enough, or do you think that
you're right? Care? She wouldn't care enough.
She's just so evil.
Yeah, you're right. She wouldn't be that altruistic. I'm expecting too much from her. So, okay, here's my question: do you think the ending worked?
I like the ending.
You like the ending?
Because I think that it gets down to the theme of being a witness and being a martyr in that sense of being a witness to something. The cult has this feeling of ownership over the witness of the martyrs, and they do not have ownership over that. Someone else witnesses it, and then you can't just get anything out of them telling you.
I agree with you, but I also kind of disagree with you. The ending didn't really work for me for the whole movie. It worked for the idea, or the martyrdom idea that they had. It seems like the right ending for that idea, but again, I said this at the beginning and I'm saying it again, this movie seems like it had ideas for two different movies.
Okay, now, and I get what you're saying. However, I think that actually the two parts of the movie thematically are complementary. I feel like there are common threads of like the effects of what pain does to you and what suffering does to you, and what's happening at the end of the movie.
I definitely get what you were saying. Yeah. I think, very ambitious movie, very difficult ideas that were really hard to pull off, and at times it really succeeded at doing that. At times, I think it kind of failed miserably. So that's kind of my love-hate relationship with this movie. It's like, I love the ideas. I love some of the execution. Other parts of the execution, I'm just like nope, like not into. So that's like the dichotomy of like my opinion on this movie.
That's cool. Yeah, I think I'm more unreserved about it, and I'm more into that last act, and I think that's maybe because like I said earlier, I like the way that this movie is kind of like just descending deeper and deeper into hell.
So in conclusion, Martyrs was a very difficult balancing act that balanced a lot of ideas, a lot of difficult subjects, and just a lot. Some people think it balanced it right. Some people think it fell apart. Yeah, I definitely see both opinions.
Yeah, it's
I see both opinions within myself. I'm kind of leaning towards like great ideas, but it largely fell apart. You're kind of leaning towards it didn't fall apart.
Yeah,
that it held it.
Yeah. This is a movie it's pretty interesting. It's worth checking out. That basically wraps up our discussion on Martyrs. Well, okay, I mean, I chose both these movies, of course, because of the common themes of martyrdom, obviously.
Yeah, I again think there are things that these movies do really right. I think they're not perfect. There's problems with them. There's very difficult themes in them, very, very heavy topics that definitely may make one think. Worth thinking about.
Yeah.
If you decide to watch them.
I think that's about it then. So, this is A Bit of the Dark. Good night.
Good night.